Someone wrongs you once, and your brain locks them into the villain role forever. Someone helps you once, and you can't imagine them being capable of harm. Your mind sorted people into moral categories. Good people do good things. Bad people do bad things. And once someone is categorized, you ignore evidence that contradicts the label. That coworker who complained about mistreatment yesterday can't also be the one mistreating others today. Your brain refuses to let the same person be both victim and villain, and that rigid thinking is making you blind to reality. This is destroying your judgment in ways you don't even see. You watch someone suffer and automatically assume they're innocent. They must be. Victims are good, so you defend them without checking facts. Then you find out they caused the situation they're suffering from, but your brain already coded them as victim. You can't update the category. Or you see someone do something harmful and label them as bad. Now when they get treated unfairly, you think they deserve it. Victims deserve protection. Villains deserve punishment. Your mind can't process that the same person can be both at different times. You've turned moral judgment into permanent identity, and identity overrides behavior. This is called moral typecast. Research shows once people categorize someone as a moral agent who acts or a moral patient who is acted upon, they struggle to see that person in the opposite role by over 60%. Your brain evolves to track who helps and who harms in your tribe. Clear categories meant quick decisions. Protector or threat, ally or enemy. So your mind creates moral roles and assigns people to them. Your neurons don't update rosessily. Once someone is cast, the role sticks. Even when their behavior contradicts it, your brain thinks locking people into moral roles helps you predict behavior. But it's actually making you miss reality while watching it happen. Here's how this ruins your perception of people constantly. Your manager gives harsh feedback to your team. You code them as villain. Bad boss. Now that manager talks about feeling overworked and underappreciated, your brain rejects this. Villains can't be victims. They chose to be mean, so they deserve whatever stress they get. You can't see that someone can give harsh feedback and also be treated unfairly by their own boss. The moment you assign the villain role, you removed their capacity to suffer legitimately. They're locked out of victim status forever in your mind. They could be drowning, and you'd assume they deserve it. Or you have a friend who's going through a divorce. They share their pain. You feel for them. You code them as victim, the one who was wronged. Then you hear the other side of the story. Your friend wasn't innocent. They contributed to the breakdown, but your brain already locked them into victim. So you either dismiss the contradicting information or create mental gymnastics to preserve the victim role. They were provoked. They were defending themselves. They had no choice. You're protecting the category, not evaluating the behavior. Your friend is both someone who was hurt and someone who hurt, but your mind can only hold one role at a time. Think back to today. How many times did you do this? The typecasting doesn't just lock people into roles. It creates a cascade where you enable bad behavior from victims and dehumanize villains who suffer. You let your victimized friend treat others poorly because victims can't be villains. So you make excuses. Their behavior is justified by their pain. Meanwhile, you ignore legitimate grievances from people you coded as villains. They complain about unfair treatment, and you roll your eyes. B-lanes manipulate. They're playing victim to avoid accountability. You're trapped in a loop where the initial categorization determines every future judgment. The person's actual behavior becomes irrelevant. The role is all that matters. Your brain is running 10,000-year-old software on today's problems. Most people think this is about giving people second chances or being forgiving, so they try to be less judgmental or more open-minded. But that's like trying to see clearly by squinting differently at a distorted image. The real issue isn't how harshly you judge. It's that you're using permanent roles to evaluate changing behaviors. Humans are capable of both harm and suffering, often simultaneously. Often in the same relationship, the person who hurts you can also be hurt by you. The person you help can also harm you. Moral roles aren't identities. They're temporary states, but your brain treats them as fixed traits. This bias survives because categories are easier than complexity, and admitting someone is both victim and villain feels like moral confusion. Plus, recognizing typecasting means recognizing how many people you've misjudged by locking them into roles. And if you stopped using fixed categories, you'd have to evaluate behavior contextually every single time. You'd lose the mental shortcut of they re a good person or they re a bad person. Your brain would rather maintain simple, wrong categories than adopt complex, accurate evaluation. The shortcut is comfortable even when it's completely inaccurate. But here's where it gets interesting. You're not identifying moral types, you're assigning moral roles and then treating the roles as permanent. That person isn't a victim. They experienced victimization in this specific situation. That person isn't a villain. They caused harm in this specific context. The same human can be harmed on Monday and cause harm on Tuesday, can be exploited by one person while exploiting another, can suffer genuine injustice, and also behave unjustly. Moral roles are actions, not identities. The moment you freeze someone in a role, you stop seeing their behavior clearly. You start filtering everything through the category. And the category lies. Once you see moral typecasting as role assignment instead of identity recognition, everything shifts. Your friend isn't a victim. They're experiencing a divorce where both people contributed. Your boss isn't a villain. They're stressed and expressing it poorly. Neither person is locked into moral purity or moral corruption. They're humans who sometimes act well and sometimes act badly. You're not trying to stop making moral judgments. You're trying to stop letting initial judgments become permanent identities that override all future evidence. So the next time someone you've echoed as good does something harmful, or someone you've echoed as bad experiences something unfair, you'll know what's really happening. Your brain assigned them a moral role. The role is blocking you from seeing contradictory behavior. But now you can catch it. You can ask if you're evaluating what they did or protecting a category you created. That awareness is everything. You're not trying to excuse bad behavior. You're trying to see actual behavior instead of confirming a mental typecast. You started this video locking people into permanent victim or villain categories. Now, you know moral roles are temporary states, not fixed identities. That's not a small shift. That's seeing humans as complex instead of as moral archetypes. You now know something most people will never figure out. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. Click the video on screen to discover why smart people make the dumbest mistakes.